Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and if you've been following my channel, you know where we are. We're on the road that we can get to the park from, and so it's a little breezy. I hope that's not messing up my audio. Anyway, so that's where we're headed. If you're new to my channel and haven't been following, I'm 82 years old and telling a lot of important things that I remember from my life, or interesting, I should say. And so we're right to the point now where I'm about ready to move from Seattle, Washington to Pasco, Washington to begin a teaching career. And if you want to get caught up, just click on my little smiling face. That'll take you to my homepage on YouTube, and then click on playlists and find life story in the playlist. All right, so we're going to try this out. We haven't really tried this for sure, but we're going to give it a try. And there's a lot of traffic and a lot of noise here, so I think what we'll do is high speed this thing until we get to the other end. So stand by and we'll jump down to the other end. Okay, well, the park that we're headed to, and by the way, we've gone to it one other time on my videos, is when I lived in the HOA here in this area. I would fly my drone and my RC planes at this park because it's nice and big. And it's one of my favorite memories, I guess you could say. So I thought, well, we'll just go for a ride in the park and tell you another story. I was going to tell you about my 1941 Ford truck and how it made it over the mountains, the Cascade Mountains, to get to Pasco, Washington, and I think I'll still do that. But I also remembered another story that I forgot all about until I was getting ready to do this video, and I think you'll be interested in it. So let's jump back to when I was in college. I was married. My friend Henry, he was married, and his wife's parents lived in Bellingham, so he was kind of stuck there. Anyway, I had a 1941 Ford. He knew it, and he knew I was going to go down to visit my folks in Seattle, so we'll stop and let this guy go. And so he asked me if I'd pick up a piano, because his folks had a piano that they said he could have. And so yeah, I could take my truck and pick it up and bring it up. And so I agreed to do that. I always drove my truck a lot slower than the traffic, because that old engine, I didn't want it to throw a rod or anything. So me, my wife, and my little almost newborn son got in the pickup and headed to Seattle. And so we spent the weekend down there with my folks and visited and everything. And then Sunday afternoon, I drove over to Henry's house, Henry's parents' house. They weren't too far away. That's how come we got acquainted. And so they had some extra guys there. And they loaded that. It's like an upgrade. It was like a grand piano turned on its edge. It was a big one. And so upright grand, that's what they call it. Anyway, so we got it in, tied it down, and started back up to Bellingham. Well, everything went fine. I had to go slower on the freeway, and it was all freeway all the way up. And pretty soon we'll get out of this traffic. Anyway, it was all freeway all the way up, and we went through Everett. Well, maybe I just put a map up. We went through Everett, and then between Everett and Bellingham, it was a mostly wooded area. And so as you went on the freeway, all you saw on both sides was woods, okay? And so I don't remember, it was getting dark by the time we got up into that area. And we're going along, and then all of a sudden, I hear this bam, and my left rear tire blew out. It was probably an old worn out tire, and I had a heavy piano in the back of the truck, and so I pulled over to the side. Now, back in those days, there wasn't seat belts, and they didn't have child carriers, and so back in those days, the mom just held the child in her lap. So I was able to get out and in the dark, jack up the truck, and get the wheel off, but I didn't have a flat. So I was hoping somebody coming by would stop and help me, but there wasn't anybody coming by. It was Sunday night. And so then I decided, okay, so I looked around, and over as I was headed north on the freeway, it would be on the west side, through the woods, I saw a light, just a little light. And it was on the other side of the freeway. So in order to get there, I had to roll that tire across my side of the freeway, throw it over a center guard, and then roll it across to the other side of the freeway. And hopefully there wasn't a fence or something. Well, as it turned out, I don't remember the details now, but I was able to get it away from the freeway and into the woods. And so I was headed towards that light that I had seen. In the meantime, I remember my wife was sitting in the truck holding the baby. And let's see, I think I can turn in up here. I think I can. Let's see. Yeah, I think I can just turn in here. And we'll go around this corner. Whoops, careful. All right, let's go to pedal assist 5. That gets you up the hill, always. Now we gotta go back to pedal assist 2. Otherwise, we'll go way too fast. Okay, we're at the park. And so you can kind of take a look at how it looks. So, and I might just use the throttle to get through here because a lot of places I have to anyway, as you could just see. So anyway, she was sitting there, and I was hiking through the woods. It wasn't a path. I just had to make my way to where that light was. Well, it turned out that light was at a house, and I went to the front door and knocked, and a guy came, a really nice guy as it turned out, came, and he opened the door, and I told him my problem, and so nice. He said, well, let me help you. So we, he put the tire in the back of his truck. We got in, and he had to go back down south on the freeway because he knew where there was a filling station that had tires and stuff. And so we got down there and pulled in, and my tire had blown out, I guess, and so I needed a new one. And of course, I didn't have enough money in my pocket. I could have used a credit card if it had been nowadays, but they didn't have credit cards back then. And so that old man was so nice. He paid for my tire and paid for getting it mounted on the rim, and drove back onto the freeway, and we headed north. And my truck was still sitting in the dark with my wife sitting in there the whole time. And so we got there, and I put the wheel on, we let the jack down, and everything worked fine. So I thanked him, and he went on his way. But that was just a blessing that, well, number one, it was a blessing that the tire blew where it blew, so I could see that light across the freeway. And a blessing that the guy was nice enough to help a young kid. So we got up to Bellingham, and it was late now. It was like 10 o'clock or later, and got everybody together, and they unloaded the piano out of the truck and carried it in the house. And so that's the story of my 41 Ford pickup, one of the stories. Okay, so now, let's see if I make it up this hill. Let's go to pedal assist 5 again. Okay, that's good. So, now how about when I moved Pasco, Washington? Well, the day came for us to move. My parents decided they would help us move, and so they drove their car, and my wife had her car. We had everything all packed up, you know, all of our belongings. We didn't have hardly any furniture or anything. And because I was going to take a back road, and because I was not going to go very fast, I left at 4 in the morning. The only problem is pouring down rain in Seattle on that day. I mean, really pouring down. It was so wet that when I walked out to my truck and walked across the grass, my heels sunk into the grass. So that's how wet it was. So anyway, got in the truck, started it up, it ran fine, and turned on the windshield wiper. Now the windshield wipers back in those days, they weren't electric. They worked off the vacuum system from the manifold, and you don't have to know about that as a part of the engine. And the manifold, the vacuum was created by the engine turning and the pistons pumping air in, and so there was always a vacuum there, and that way they would feed that over to this little pump that ran the windshield wiper. The only thing is when if you wanted to speed up and you push down, then the carburetor would open up to get more air in, and your vacuum would disappear until you let up on the gas. So, as I had to go across the Cascade Mountains on Snoqualmie Pass, and I'll put a picture of that, I guess, from Google Earth, and so I got started. Everything went fine. It was pouring down rain, but I had a windshield wiper, and only on the driver's side. There wasn't one on the passenger side. And so I'm going along, and it's going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And then I started climbing up Snoqualmie Pass. Well, you have to push on the gas, and the carburetor opens up more, and you lose your vacuum. So what I would do is I would go without the windshield wiper and got up to speed. Then I let up on the gas for just a couple of seconds, and the windshield wiper would clear the window, and then I'd push on the gas again, and I did that all the way up Snoqualmie Pass. And I remember as I was getting near the top, I could see, because I left at 4 in the morning in it must have been August or September, and the sun was starting to shine, and I could see the sun shining into the clouds as I was coming up. And of course, then as you get to the top of the pass, the rain goes away, and so I got to the top of the pass, and the rain went away, and the sun came out, and then I went down the pass. And then if you make the exit to Yakima, then you're going to just go on back roads. That's how it was then. And so I took back roads, and as I was going across eastern Washington, where it wasn't raining, because eastern Washington's just a lot like Arizona, it not exactly, but it's the same kind of terrain, same kind of weather, but just not as hot. And so so as I was driving along, and the sun was shining, and I'd been on the road now for quite a while, and I could feel, I'm not kidding you, I could feel that truck beginning to dry out, because it had lived its life on the other side of the mountains where it rains a lot. Bellingham had a lot of rain, and so it had lived its life on on the western side of Washington. And so it was as I was driving along, it was just drying. It was like I could feel it crack. And I remember when I got the truck, down behind the seat and stuff, for some reason, there's always a collection of dust and dirt, and it was there. Well, then it got wet and stuff. So what happened was, as I was going along, that stuff dried out, and when I finally got to Pasco, you could break it loose with your fingers. And anyway, so I got all dried up. Well, what happened was, when my wife and I went over for the interview, we found a place to rent for when we actually moved in. And so everybody, my mom and dad, and my Aunt Chloe was there too. They all got there before we did. And so when I got there, I found out that, and my wife, she drove her car, she got there before I did. When I got there, that house had not been rented for a long time, and the pipes had frozen in the winter time, and there was water all over the floor. So the first thing we had to do was go find another place to live with all of our stuff. And so we did. We found it, and we moved into a house on Opal Street in Pasco, and that's where we ended up. So anyway, that was my old 1941 Ford. Made it all the way, dried out when it got there, and became crusty. So that's the story of my 41 Ford. A couple of stories that I really remember well. I want to thank you for watching my videos, and God bless.